As Amy said, objections really are opportunities to help or to get clarity, to do a number of different things. And when it comes to learning dialogues and that sort of thing, I want to address something. A lot of people have what I call kind of like dialogue prejudice, or they think they sound scripty or kind of canned and salesy. And actually, I'm of the opinion that if this is done right, you actually sound the exact opposite of that. And dialogues are simply a way to help you remember how to get your points across in a high-stress situation and to aid you in the process of building trust and relationships and creating an environment where people can actually hear you and listen to you carefully and hopefully be guided by some of your suggestions and advice. So a couple of quick points about dialogues. Don't try to read them. Don't try to memorize lines. If you have a particular objection you're responding to, try to remember it by bullet points rather than simply by a complete dialogue. Remember that sometimes when the first time you hear an objection, I would encourage you to treat it as an observation rather than as an objection. And I would respond non-committally by like, I see. For example, someone may say to you, well, I only want to list my house for a month because you're early on in the presentation and they don't really trust you all that much. Excuse me. If you can deflect that further into the presentation, there's a good possibility that that objection may go away on its own. So this is really important. I'm struggling for a way to describe it to you, but the idea is don't manufacture objections by making mountains out of molehills. The second thing that I guess on the front end I'd like to talk to you about is buy signs. Let's say you're standing in a house and somebody's in the dining room and they say, so what are the taxes, or what is the size of the dining room, and that sort of thing. You can walk through that house like the answer guy and answer any and all questions that they have, and at the end of the day you will not have an appointment. So understand that when they give you a buy sign like that, the response should be, why don't we sit down when we're all done here and we'll go over all of the information about the home, what it contains, answer any questions, and address any concerns that you might have. The reason you want to do it that way is now you have an appointment to write an offer without having to ask for one, which creates a lot of stress for the people you're talking to. Just say, let's get together and review everything and be very careful about our deliberations. And that's a good example of converting a buy sign into an appointment. This is one of the points in objections class where I think, wow, I really hope I made that point well, because it's so important to you to understand that. When they do give you a buy sign, convert it into an appointment. Absolutely critical. Listen carefully and ask open-ended questions. What is an open-ended question? It's real simple. They begin with who, what, where, when, why, or how. The W's and then a H for how. The reason open-ended questions are so important is because they invite comment and they make it conversational, and they're really, really important. Become skilled at asking open-ended questions. Paraphrase and clarify and disclose. I'm going to go to another section now. And now we're moving into, we kind of revamped this program, and rather than simply tell you what paraphrasing is, we're going to talk about it for just a moment, and then we're going to give you an example. Paraphrasing is simply a restatement of what somebody has said to you. For example, I really like the house, but the roof scares me. A paraphrase of that might be, it sounds like you might have some interest in this home, but the roof is really a concern for you. Now, what does that do for you? It's a simple statement, but it does a lot of things. One of them, it says, hey, I'm hearing you, and I'm concerned too. because you're concerned. It says that you're not going to try to rush them to judgment. And they're going to expand on how they feel about it. Actually, they may even say, well, it's not that big of a deal because my brother-in-law is a roofer. Or it's going to help you gauge the intensity of that objection. We only want to list our home for a month. So as I understand it, you have an interest in marketing your home, but you're interested in a relatively short period of time, correct? Now what you're doing there is you're confirming, yes, in the first instance you're saying, yes, I want to sell my house. In the second instance, you're confirming, yes, I want to buy a house in the first, and the second one, I want to sell a house. So it's important when you're paraphrasing to confirm the initial decision and then do a slight rephrase and let them continue to talk with you about what's important to them. Paraphrasing is far more powerful than it sounds, and please become skilled at it. The next skill I would like to talk to you about is clarifying. Listening, and affording them an opportunity to hear you. For example, I only want to list my house for a month. Help me understand. Thank you for bringing that up, John. I really appreciate your candor. Help me understand where you're at. Obviously, you think a shorter listing period is in your best interest. Could I ask what your reasoning is? Can I ask what it is that prompted you to want that shorter listing period? You're going to get your answers, trust me. But you have to clarify, and nobody's going to get offended by you asking it that way. If you say to them, well, I don't list houses for 1 month, it's not my policy, you're going to invite a fight, and you're going to have problems. So please be careful with these responses, okay? Disclosure is a process that, again, is one of those ones you can underestimate. It's a process of vulnerability and courage. If someone says to you, I'm just overwhelmed by this thing, first of all, I would put my pencil down or whatever, and I would pause, and I would look at them and say, I understand how you feel. And I would tell them a story. You know, the first time that I bought a house, I was scared to death. I went into this closing, I signed a lot of forms that I didn't really understand all that well, and it was absolutely terrifying. And you know, the interesting part of that story is I'd already been in the real estate business for 4 years. And that was one of the most powerful experiences I ever had, because it dumped me right in your shoes. And it made me understand what you're going through. And here's the good news. I'm going to help you. Finding a home is the easy part. Buying a home is the hard part. That's where I come in, and that's where I'm going to help you. We're going to get through this thing together. Make the story positive. Make it about you. If you can't use your own experience of your own, talk about an experience with a client or someone in the office's experience with a client. Make it true, and take your time and tell that story, and something magical happens. A number of things. Actually, you build a relationship and build trust as well, as we discussed with some of these other techniques. But the other thing that happens that I think is even more powerful is it tells them it's perfectly normal to have these feelings. It's okay to be scared. It's okay to be apprehensive. This is a big change, and this feeling that you're having right now is part of the process. This can help you with a lot of different things. Being vulnerable, sharing with them, I've been there, I understand, is a way to create a relationship that's worth having. And it's very helpful. Very human. And I hope you tell your stories.